Today, and good morning or good afternoon wherever you are. My name is Nicole Sanders, and I'll be moderating today's event. And it's called the Zinc Answers webcast, and our goal here is to provide you a quick overview of how Zinc can help your organization, but we'll primarily focus on actually demonstrating how it works. This is not meant to be an exhaustive demonstration of every single thing that Zinc can do, but show you just a few scenarios to help you see how a real-time communication platform can really make an impact on your business. So I'm here with Edward Saavedra, who's our sales engineer, and he's going to take us through today's presentation. So Edward, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Nicole. Again, this is Edward here. I'm a sales engineer here at Zinc, and today we're going to be focusing on the theme of instant answers. So we're going to look at how a field technician's ability to access answers in the field can help impact some key metrics for your business, such as first-time fix rate and job duration. So as you know, if you're a field technician who's out working on site, away from your peers, encountering a number of different challenges throughout the day, one of the biggest things that can really impact your ability to get your job done effectively is your ability to access information and answers on the spot in real time. So traditionally, this has often been done with tools like simple phone calls. So picking up your phone and calling your supervisor to see if they might have an answer to what you're encountering, or oftentimes picking up a phone to call a support line or a similar resource like that. Maybe even using something like an email or a text to try to reach out to a peer that you know who might have an answer. Now, these things, if you're a field technician, you know are really imperfect ways of getting answers reliably and quickly. You often end up hitting a voicemail or ending up on hold if you're calling into a support line. Of course, if you're emailing or texting just a couple of folks, it can get pretty slow to try to get a response from them. So what we're going to look at today is how an alternative method using Zinc can get you those answers much more quickly. We'll be looking at three scenarios that demonstrate how this can take place within Zinc. For the first one, we'll be looking at a technician who is new to the job. They've received their classroom training, but they're really just weeks into this. So they're encountering a lot of scenarios for the first time. Now, they're going to encounter a scenario, and they're going to resolve it by using a couple of just basic features within Zinc, escalating from a simple text message to their supervisor, to an image of what they're seeing, to a more advanced video call. We'll then be looking at how a technician can leverage Zinc to access the institutional knowledge within their organization, how they can access information from an entire group of peers through a couple of tools, such as sending out a simple text message again, starting a group call, and sharing their location so they can access the resources of the peers who are in their immediate vicinity. And then we'll be looking at how organizations can push information down to their teams to allow them to answer questions at scale and allow their teams to be more efficiently informed about key updates and critical new information. And to do that, we'll be showing you a tool within Zinc called Broadcasts, as well as showing you how teams can act on this new information that's being provided by their organization using real-time tools like push-to-talk, that's PTT. So let's dive in and take a look at these scenarios. Now, I'll be playing the part of Josh Porter, a technician here at this organization, and I'm on the job, I'm on site, encountering an issue that I have never seen before. This isn't something that came up in classroom training, and I know that I'm going to need to ask somebody for help. Otherwise, I'm going to have to come out and do a second truck roll to resolve this issue. Now, I'm new to the job, so I don't quite know my tool set completely, but to simplify things, there's only one place that I have to go to get in touch with my peers, and that's Zinc. So I'm going to tap the Zinc icon and open up the Zinc application on my phone. Now, I want to get in touch with my supervisor, Brandy Pillars. Now, luckily, that's really easy to do. I haven't had to use Zinc too much so far, but fortunately, it's a really familiar interface. It's really simple to use, so I don't need any real training to get up and running here. You know, I've used things like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger in my personal life, and the interface here is really similar to make it easy to get in here and start making use of this to get in touch with my peers without any steep learning curve. So as you can see, I've got a number of conversations here, some of them being group conversations, like this conversation with the parts team, and others being one-to-one conversations, such as this conversation I have with my manager, Brandy Pillars. I'm simply going to tap on that conversation with Brandy Pillars, and it's going to bring me into this timeline of messages that I've got going back and forth with her. Now, I don't know if she's available right now. It looks like she's active from this indication right here, but she might be on a call with somebody. She's got a big team that she's working with. So I want to just quickly send her the message to summarize the problem that I'm having. I'll fire off a quick text, and I'll see if she's ever encountered this problem with this particular piece of technology that I'm working on right now. So really quickly, I get a response back, and I want to give her a little bit more context. So rather than typing out a bunch of information about what I'm seeing, I'm going to actually switch over into another mode of communication. And this is a key concept here in Zinc. So rather than relying on a single mode of communication like just text messaging or just doing phone calls, I'm going to have access to a number of different types of communication all folded into one application. So in this context, sending her an image of what I'm seeing is going to be really effective. So I'm going to tap on this icon here. I've got a number of different types of media that I can send Brandy to help her diagnose what I'm seeing. And I'm going to click on the camera roll here, and I'm going to send her a picture that I took of the error code that I'm getting on the machine. So now she sees what machine I'm working on, she sees the error code that I'm getting, where I'm seeing this, so she has more context now to help me figure out what exactly I need to do to resolve this issue. Now, sometimes just sending photos back and forth, even then, isn't going to be enough, and we want to jump onto a more real-time mode of communication. So we could tap on this button here to jump onto just a voice phone call, but I actually want to do something a little bit more real-time and engaging, and I actually want to basically simulate having her here over my shoulder looking at what I'm seeing. Now, to do that, I'm going to hop into a video call. So there's a quick icon that I can tap here, and this is going to start a video call with Brandy. Now, as you can see, this starts a FaceTime-style face-to-face conversation, which is great for having manager updates and one-to-ones. But what I can do as well is I can swivel the screen around, and I can actually show Brandy exactly what I'm looking at. So it's basically the next best thing to having her here in the room with me to help me solve this problem. And what we've seen with many of our field service customers is that this becomes a really powerful way to quickly troubleshoot problems when you've got remote resources. So whether you're working with your manager or supervisor, or you're working with a senior technician who's at a central location, they're going to be able to get a much better sense of the problem that you're encountering on site and help you walk through that issue step by step. So as you could see, we escalated from a very simple text message up to something a little bit more informative with a photo, and then jumping into a real-time video conversation, all without leaving this one application. And I did this with just a couple of clicks without having to have any complex training on how to use this application. So with that, I was able to get my answer in real time. Now, let's look at another scenario. Let's say that my supervisor is not available, but I'm having some trouble with a device and I need to get some type of help. Now, I know that my manager is not going to be available for a few more hours, but I really need to wrap up this job as quickly as possible. So instead of having to wait, I'm going to access the resource, the great resource of all of the expertise of my peers. So there are a number of senior technicians in my region who might be able to help me out, and I want to reach out to all of them. I don't know which one's going to be available right now. I don't know which one is going to have an answer for me. So instead of going one by one, I'm just going to hop into one of these groups that I have set up. Now, these can be groups that are set up by your organization to kind of prescribe which people should have access to each other for help. Or these could be quick one-off groups that I've created with my peers so that we can help each other out. Now, I have one for the Portland East Side where I'm working. I'm going to tap into that because I know I might need some on-site help with this one. Now, I've got a number of people in this group here who will see this message when I send it out. And I'm going to send off a quick question about this four-door flex that I'm working on that's not responding to touch for its touch screen. Now, I don't know if I'm going to need a new part, but it sounds like I probably will. So Dwight has responded and said, it sounds like I might need that part, and sounds like he might be able to help me out and actually bring me one. So this is a scenario that we see really frequently. Sometimes when you're needing answers on the job, part of that answer, part of that resolution to the problem that you're facing might actually be something like needing to swap parts with someone in the area. Now, rather than going through a list of colleagues that I have in my region and calling each one and seeing, okay, hey, do you have an extra of this part in your truck? Are you nearby? Now, instead, I have access to this group of all of my peers in the area. And instead of having to do something more complicated, I'm actually going to jump into one of these other modes of communication, and I'm going to share my location. And with one tap, I'm going to send off a pin, and that's going to actually give everybody in the area a map access to my location. So anybody who's in this group can now tap on that map, and it's going to actually bring them to directions to my location. So they can just start routing to exactly where I am. And that happened with just a couple of clicks. So if I've got a part that I need to get, this is going to be a really efficient way to access that. Now, sometimes you might need to discuss a little bit further who's going to be the best person to come to that location. There might need to be a little bit more back and forth about who's going to be the person who has the exact correct part, or when their best availability is to come by my location and drop that off. We could go back and forth, of course, with texting, or could send another location if I move later. But the fastest way to do this is actually going to be to jump on a call with all of them. Now, starting group calls like this when you're a technician out in the field has traditionally been really tough, because you're managing things that are designed for desktop workers, like conference codes and dial-in numbers, IDs, these things that are really tough to manage if you're just working from the small space of a mobile phone. Now, rather than doing that, I'm going to keep this again all within Zinc and switch into the group call mode of communication. I'm going to tap on this one button, and I'm going to have a big blue button that's going to start a call for me. Now, as soon as I start that call, this is going to alert everybody in the group that I've started a call and everyone is invited to join. They'll then have one button that they can press to hop on, and we can start discussing how to exchange this part, where to meet up, and the best way to resolve this issue. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that this type of call within Zinc is accessible on any device wherever you are. So if I have teammates who are working from their computer, for example, or who are working from an iPad with Wi-Fi access only, they're still going to be able to hop on and participate in that same conversation. So this becomes a really great way to bring people together to share information efficiently without having to worry about where they are or what device they're working from. So again, in this context, in this scenario, we saw how you can get answers from a whole group of people by leveraging a few different tools, ranging from that simple text message to something a little bit more kind of contextually relevant, like sharing a pin of your location, to something very real-time again, such as having a group conversation over that Zinc HD call. So we've gone over a couple scenarios from the tech's point of view, but let's look at what this will look like from an organization's point of view. So sometimes you have questions that come up repeatedly. You'll see that technicians are asking, calling into your support line over and over again to ask about a particular device that's maybe having a frequent malfunction, or a particular issue that many techs are experiencing all at once. Oftentimes we'll see this with utility companies, for example, who are experiencing an outage, and you'll have a number of techs calling in to report this outage, and it can cause blockages on the support line. It can cause slowdowns of responses for technicians who have questions that really need answered right away. And one of the ways to get these answers out en masse is to use something called broadcasts. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to switch over to the perspective of that manager, Brandy Pillars, who's working from her desktop and actually using the Zinc administrative console. So this has a lot of tools that we won't be going over here in this demo, but what we're focusing on right now is this broadcast tool. Now, I've got a broadcast queued up that's going to be informing a group of technicians in the Southeast Field Services team about an outage alert. Now, composing one of these broadcasts is really simple. I'm just selecting a group of people, and that's as easy as just starting to type in the name of a group, for example, or the name of a user. And once I've got that group selected, I can just put in a quick title to get people's attention, and a little bit of information along with a link to any further context, further information that people might need access to. And on the right, you can see a preview of what this is going to look like. So I'll send off this broadcast, and we'll see what this looks like from the perspective of a user receiving it. Now, this has just popped up and actually taken over my screen, and it's going to look very different from any other kind of message that I've received in Zinc so far. So clearly this is something that's urgent and of high importance. So I could even tap around here on my screen, I could tap around here to get back into the app, but it's actually not going to let me do that until I've acknowledged this message in some way. So clearly this is something that I need to check out right away. Now, I see immediately, okay, there's an outage in section 2114. That's actually something that's going to impact me. So I can check out this outage map. Maybe I'll do that later, and for now I'll close this out. Now the key thing here from the broadcaster's perspective is that they now have access to information about what exactly has happened with this alert once they set it out. So rather than sending out emails or bulletins that just kind of go out into the void and you don't know exactly what's happened with them, who's engaging with them, this is going to give you a full picture of exactly how many people have seen the message, how many people have clicked through to the context that you sent, and then how many, exactly who has clicked on it and when. So I now see that this Josh Porter individual has clicked on this a few seconds ago. And I've got this historical information for all of the broadcasts that have been sent out. So this gives you a really powerful way to answer questions en masse and also provide accountability around your employees accessing that information. So this becomes a much more efficient way to push out information rather than giving them a place such as just a knowledge base or just a kind of community information center where people might go if they want to access it, but it's not really put in front of them. This is a more proactive way to get that information out to people. And of course, they can go back later and access this from the broadcast center if they need to reference this information later on. Now, as a technician who's just received this update, I'm oftentimes going to need to take some kind of action on that. And sometimes I might need to have a conversation with the other technicians who were affected by this new update. So if that's the case, I'm going to hop into this group, the Southeast Field Service Team that was impacted, and I'm going to see that I've got a conversation here, just like with those other groups that you saw. And maybe I could send a text message out. We've seen that already, though. I can, of course, send images if I'm seeing something relating to this outage or hop on a call. But what I actually want to do is something a little bit less intrusive, something that's going to be real time, but that won't require everyone's attention all at once, like a phone call. I'm actually going to switch into a mode called push to talk. To do that, I'm going to tap on this icon here, and it's going to bring me into push to talk mode. Here you'll see I have a couple of channels that I'm accessing, and these are both channels for groups that exist within Zinc that I have access to, that I'm using push to talk within. You can see that this is a very simple interface, and using push to talk is as simple as just tapping on this icon to send off a message in real time. Now, everybody else who's in that group is going to receive that message streamed to them in real time, just as if I was using a walkie-talkie or radio. And if I receive a message here, it's going to play back through my phone or through my headset if I have one in real time, even if I have the application closed in my pocket or if I'm switched over into another application. So it's just like having a walkie-talkie or radio built right into Zinc. So this is great for real-time troubleshooting. If you've got your hands, you're working with your hands, you just need to be listening to these messages coming in, or you just need to send off a quick couple of short bursts of updates, this is going to give you that correct mode of communication to be able to do that. So if you need short answers and you've got quick questions, and this is coming up in real time, this is the mode to do that. And I can easily switch back out of that and access the group that I was talking in if I need to do something like sending a photo to give some more context to one of those push-to-talk messages. So it's, again, bringing these modes together so that you can use them in conjunction with each other based on the context of the problem that you're solving to get the answers that you need when you need them. So that concludes the demo portion here. I'm going to switch back to our presentation to just wrap up what we've seen. Now, you've seen only a portion of Zinc. This is really just a couple of basic scenarios that we see really frequently for field service technicians. But again, you've seen how the simple act of sending messages back and forth to individuals or in group conversations can help you get to the questions that you really need to be asking to answer the situation at hand. How you can augment those questions and that back and forth of text messaging and photo sharing with real-time communication methods such as voice and video. And how as an organization you can push out information at scale using broadcasts in a way that's accountable and conveys urgency. Now, of course, all of this is built onto a single platform, so you have access to analytics that can show you what groups are interacting with each other, where questions are being asked, and it can help you get some context and insight for your organization. And all of this is done in a way that's administrable, so you can create the right groups to give people access to the right information. And you can do this in a secure and extensible way that's going to be viable whether your organization is 500 or 5,000 employees. Now, there's a lot more to see, and of course, this is available across all applications or all devices, whether you've got support employees who are working from a desktop, or you've got technicians who are out in the field working from Android or iOS devices. They're all going to be able to communicate with each other and share information quickly across all of these different modes. So there's more to see here, of course. There's a lot going on within Zinc that provides you the tools that you need as a technician in the field. But I think you've seen some of the really key stuff that we see used on a day-to-day basis across field technician teams of all industries, ranging from telecommunications to utilities to consumer services. The takeaways from this really want you to bring from this quick demo is that when you need answers as a field technician, it's got to be real time. If you're waiting on hold for a support line, that's going to diminish your ability to reduce your job duration and create a happy customer. It's got to be intuitive, so if you're a technician who's just weeks onto the job, you've got to be able to jump into a tool to get the answers you need without a bunch of training. And of course, you have to do this in a way that avoids information overload. So if there's a key piece of information, such as a broadcast about an important outage, it's got to stand out. It can't be buried in with a bunch of other conversation. And of course, you have to have access to the modes that match the context of the problem you're solving. So if you're asking a quick question that can get a text message answer, you don't need to jump into a video call. But if you're dealing with a complex piece of machinery and you really need to have a back and forth conversation with an expert who can see what you're doing, you have to have the mode to be able to do that. And of course, this all has to be secure and scalable, so you can trust that if you're sharing customer information or if you're working at scale with dozens of technicians collaborating together, this is going to be possible all within one tool. And that's what Zinc provides.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Edward, for taking us through that. I didn't mention, we do have a minute or two for questions, so if you want to go ahead and submit those through GoToWebinar, you can do that through the questions panel on your screen. And also, I'll mention we are recording today's webcast, and we'll be providing you a link to this should you want to listen again or share it with your colleagues. So it does look like we have one question that came in, and it says, Edward, how long does it take to set up Zinc?
So this is a great question. And one of the nice things about Zinc is that it's really easy to roll out. And we've seen this done at very large scale with thousands of technicians. I'm talking about 5,000 technicians at the particular organization that I'm thinking about, successfully rolled out within just a couple of weeks. So that's going from zero to setting up the groups, to getting this out into the hands of technicians, to getting this actually actively used for seeking answers and getting jobs resolved quickly in a matter of about 2 weeks. Now, for smaller organizations, this can be even faster, but the implementation is as simple as getting your users loaded up, which is a really easy matter of just pasting in some email addresses, getting this out to your users on their devices. This is a SaaS platform, so it's as easy as downloading an application onto your phone or onto your desktop computer. And for some users, if they're not downloading the application, it's as easy as just going and logging into the Zinc web app as well. So this is a really simple tool to roll out. It doesn't require significant integrations or engineering on the part of the customer. It's one of the things that makes it really powerful.
Okay, perfect. And we have another question here. It's how long will the chats be stored? So.
That's a fantastic question. And this is something that is totally under your control as an organization. Now, you can store your chats in Zinc indefinitely. So if you want to have this record of history that you can go back and search, so people can go back to the beginning of time in a group to search for an answer that they got to a question they had when they first started their job, you can do that. They have access to all that information. It's going to be stored securely in the cloud. It'll be pulled down to their device just when they need it. And that's something you can control. If you want to reduce your kind of quote-unquote digital footprint, you can do that as well by setting your what we call Zinc clear period to something more like a month or a few weeks, and then those messages will be removed as you wish. So it's something that you completely have control over setting.
Okay, very good. I think that has covered the questions that have come in, so we'll conclude today's webcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Zinc hosts webcasts on a fairly regular basis, so we welcome you to go to zinc.it/events to see other upcoming events, both online and in person, should you be going to a conference or trade show coming up. So we look forward to talking with you further or seeing you on a future Zinc event. Thanks and have a great day.